According to a recent article in the Daily Republic, in 2014, the South Dakota Department of Agriculture reported that 98% of soybean crops are genetically modified seed. This is substantial because South Dakota is the 8th largest producer of soybean crops, with 5.11 acres harvested in 2015. Now, a lot of you have heard in the news or have read online ways that genetically modified or GMO foods aren't safe for us to consume. Most likely, all of you have purchased and eaten genetically modified foods. Think for a moment that you're at the store to buy some soy sauce. You have to choose between 6 ounces of organic, non-GMO, or 20 ounces of genetically modified soy sauce. Both are the same price and both taste the same, so which one are you most likely to buy? But before I go any further, I'd like to first give you some background information on this subject. There have been many arguments out there to not support the growth of GMO foods. One of the strongest arguments was discussed in Roxanne Palmer's 2013 International Business Times article. Palmer describes the possibility of taking genes from a plant and putting them on crops to be harmful for people with food allergies. She states that without proper labeling and without proper regulation, that this can be harmful for us to consume. But despite such viewpoints, I'm here today to convince you that genetically modified foods are safe for the environment. To begin, I'll show you how genetically engineered crops decrease the need for agrochemicals. I'll also explain how GMO foods use less water and land. Finally, I'll show you how utilizing genetically engineered crops decreases greenhouse gas emissions. Let's start by taking a look at my first viewpoint, which is how they decrease the need for agrochemicals. To begin, the first generation of genetically modified crops were made in 1980 with the intent to create a crop hybrid that would reduce pest damage to them. These plants were genetically spliced so that they would produce the Bacillus thuringiensis gene, or Bt gene, which is toxic to common agricultural pests and is harmless to humans. In 2006, the U.S. Department of Agricultural Economic Research Service found that Bt corn crops used 8% less insecticides than traditional corn crops, which decreases damage from chemical runoff and chemical drift. In addition, a group of herbicide-resistant crops were also created. This allowed farmers to use non-traditional forms of herbicides such as glyphosate by making crops resistant to them. Glyphosate inhibits a plant's ability to make the essential amino acid called tryptophan. Glyphosate is low in acute toxicity, is non-carcinogenic, and easily breaks down in water, which means it doesn't persist in our groundwater, making it more environmentally friendly. Another reason to support genetically modified crops is their ability to use less land and water. First, with the increasing demand of food and our increasing population, GMO foods can be a more sustainable food source for us. Genetically engineered crops were created to yield more products in a smaller plot of land while still encouraging growth. Field studies show that they yield 6 to 10% more than your traditional crops, which means that we're able to create more food without increasing our agricultural footprint. GMO crops, making them more environmentally friendly. In addition of all the water available for use, 70% of it is currently being used in agriculture. With the technology of GE crops, we can create crop hybrids that are resistant to drought and require less water while still encouraging growth. This is just another genetic trait making GMOs more environmentally friendly, and by applying GMOs, we can save one of our most valuable resources, which is our water. Finally, I'll show you how utilizing GE crops decreases greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, a lot of the genetically modified traits I already discussed indirectly benefits the environment by decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. According to an article in The Lancet, agricultural food production and agricultural-related changes in land use significantly contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. GMO herbicide and pesticide-resistant crops can decrease our need for a tractor on a farm. Roughly half of the use of a tractor is used to spray insecticides only, and by implementing GMO herbicide and pesticide-resistant crops, we can decrease that need for a tractor, which decreases our greenhouse gas emissions. Also, another major source of emissions is our use of fertilizer. Fertilizer can stimulate growth for crops, but it also adds excess nitrous oxide to the environment. Nitrous oxide is one of the major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. And by utilizing GE crops, it allows us to create crops that yield more products in a single harvest without this additive fertilizer, making it more environmentally friendly. Okay, I just detailed a lot of information on ways that GMO foods can benefit our environment, and now I'm going to try to sum it all up for you. I came here today to convince you that genetically engineered crops can protect our environment. To start, I showed you how GE crops decrease the need for agrochemicals. I also explained how GMO foods use less water and land. And finally, I showed you how utilizing GE crops decreases our greenhouse gas emissions. Although most of the news out there says that GMO foods are really negative, we also can't ignore the positives. We need to make sure that our future is not shortened due to the irreversible changes that we make to our environment by the ways that we grow our food. And if you want to help support the movement for GMO foods, it's as easy as going online to the Environmental Working Group's missions website at www.ewg.org, and by making a small donation, you are helping to support their research on how to help the environment by implementing GMO crops. And before I close today, I want to leave you with the final benefit that GMO crops will have for us in our future, which was discussed in Anka Erdice's 2017 article in the Research Journal of Agricultural Sciences. She explains how the next generation of GE crops are going to be made with the intent to have improved nutritional value, which means that not only are we going to have more food, but a better quality food in our future.